Surprise! You get to see a video from me after 6 months of disappearing. This is completely unplanned and unscripted, but I do have a structure. It's called look at the notes I wrote down and make sure I'm on task with what I need to talk about. Monoprice. Monoprice is weird. Like, just straight up, monoprice is weird. Like, these things, I love these things. They're just stupid fun. They sound really big, bassy. They're excellent gaming head. $26 minus the pads. Pads were like 30, but $26 just for the headphone, and they're awesome. I have a review on those. Those are the Monoprice Retros. I have a video on them that I made a while ago. So I happened to look at Monoprice again, and I saw these. These don't even have a name. I think they're just straight up called like Monoprice semi-open wired headphone. So I spent $42 on these things, and that's pretty much the reason why I bought them, is because they were $42, and I have no idea what they are. But I have some idea of what they are, actually. Apparently these are some like ISK rebrand. I don't remember what the original model was called, but it's a rebrand of some ISK, or I heard something about like Free Boss. I have no idea. Whatever headphones these are rebranded as, apparently, according to a couple of reviews I found, they were pretty good. Straight up, these are like DT990 Juniors, and that is for a couple reasons. So that's the 990s. Need I say any more? Actually, that's not the only thing, but I'm gonna get into that in a minute. I have to build quality. These are $42, but these are not $42 headphones. Here's why. Metal. This is plastic, but no, that's not real velour, but it's still really, really comfortable. 53 millimeter drivers. That's HD 800 driver size. The Sennheiser HD 800s have 53 millimeter. I mean, that actually, no, wait, that doesn't mean anything, because my ADX or my ATH AD 500X, I don't own those anymore because they kind of sucked. AD 500X also had 53 millimeter drivers. Also, actually, real quick side tangent. How does DMS enjoy the AD 500X? I don't like them. I like the modern retros, and I didn't like the 500X. How does DMS like the 500X? That doesn't make any sense. No. All right. Yeah. These are cheap, and they're built really well. Obviously, they're not DT 700 or DT 770 or DT 990 level of build quality, but I still would happily throw these across the room. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to, but I would. But I'm not going to. What am I supposed to be? Comfort. Yes. That's all I have to say for comfort. Yes. All right. So headband doesn't, because it's plastic, there's not a whole lot of squeeze, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it does mean that, like, they're not squished to my head. Grados, straight out of the box. These pads are definitely not real velour, but they're just soft. They're really, really nice, and they're deep. The cups are deep, so my ears don't touch anything on the inside of the friggin' headphone. Meze 99 Classics. Make your pads deeper, Meze. It's not that hard, and I'm sure it doesn't cost that much more. I have the 99 Classics. I will be doing a video on them. And I'm just now noticing that the dent in my microphone right here is so obvious. And now that I pointed it out, you're not going to look at anything else. The headband has got good padding. It's really, really similar to the Beyerdynamic padding, except it's not removable. Wait, all right. I know for a fact that my 990s are not that worn out, but these have more padding than the Beyerdynamics. So that's good. The pads are not memory foam, which is not good because that means they will go flat, which normally isn't an issue. Like Beyerdynamics, they don't use memory foam pads. You just, when they get worn out, you replace them. I don't know if you can replace these. I know you can I know you can swap different pads onto them because I did that, but I don't know if you can get the original ones replaced. I don't know. And on to the other thing on why these are DT990 Juniors. When I put different pads on my 990s, they always sounded bad. Didn't matter what pads I put on them, they still sounded bad unless they were the stock pads. Otherwise, they just were either like, I put my Duconi Choice leather pads on there and they sounded like crap. I put Brainwaves XL hybrid pads on them, they sounded like crap. I put Brainwaves Velour pads on them, they sounded like crap. And I kind of did the same thing here. I took the stock pads from my Mezes, because I have some Duconi pads, which are also not thick enough. Duconi, just make the pads thicker. It's not that hard. Just put more material in it, make the pads thicker, then your ear doesn't touch the inside, then the pinna of your ear doesn't touch a hard piece of walnut. Yeah, I put the Brainwaves Velour pads on these, and the treble just decided to die. Mid-range also just got incredibly bloated, but the soundstage increased, like, a lot. So that was cool, but it just didn't sound great. And then I put the stock, my stock 99 Classics pads on these, because they fit. Holy crap, was that comfortable. And then they just sounded like stock, but with bloat. They sounded no different from the stock pads. They just had but there's just so much bloat, which is really disappointing because it was so comfortable. I'm sure I can like put more dampening or put like a couple cotton balls behind the driver, make it a closed headphone, and then it'll sound okay. But I'm not doing that because I don't need to do that because they sound great on their own. Speaking of sound, yeah, these sound like DT990s, but like a really less refined version. Like the key things that I really like about the 990s is the bass extension, the bass impact, and I like the treble signature because DT990s are V-shaped. Like that's we're not getting around that. But they're V-shaped in a really good way. Excellent, like they're not overly bassy and they're not. All right, well, I guess I do have to admit the 990s are really bright, but I like that brightness. That means I can hear so much more detail than you would with AKG K240s from the 70s. That was the first thing I just happened to look at. So imagine you have the 990 signature and then take all the defined regions, like being the bass range and the treble range, and kind of move them inward by a little bit. Because the bass extension is not as good. The upper mids are actually better, in my opinion, than the 990s. These do have the better upper mids. So just less bass extension, a little bit more lower mids, and a little bit of bloat. A little bit more higher bass, like up in the 150 to 200 hertz region. And then a little bit more lower mid bloat. And then the spiky treble, but just move it back a bit and you lose some of that like really like high-end detail. And then you get $42 set of monoprice headphones. They're DT990 Juniors. So I can't explain things that good, and I'm sure that made sense to maybe one person. When it comes down to it, if you want 990s but you don't want to spend $150, get these. I don't know why you would want 990s unless you specifically want them for their defined characteristics, being how bright they are and the fact that they're indestructible. But yeah, if you want 990s but you don't have the money for it, get these. They're really close. They're just 990s but less refined. They don't have the good bass extension or the they're still kind of bright. They are kind of bright. But they just, they don't have the real high-end detail, and they don't have the real low-end, I guess, detail. Imaging, soundstage. Soundstage is okay. It really is similar to the 990s, where soundstage just kind of stops here, maybe. It's not that wide, which obviously I'm okay with. I don't care too much for soundstage, but the imaging is also very similar to the 990s. It's not pinpoint, but it's still really good. And there's not a whole lot more to say about that. I do have power requirements listed here. These are 60 ohms, which is not bad. Like, pretty much anything can run that. The sensitivity is about 93 decibels, which is kind of low. It's lower than the 990 or the 770. I mean, they're not as low as my K240s as my vintage K240s, but it is kind of low. Would I worry about that? No, you really don't need to. Like, I have a shit full of thing somewhere, and it sits at like 9 o'clock on the dial, and which is like not much at all. I might bring it up to like 11 o'clock, depending on what I'm doing. But most of the time it sits anywhere between like 9 or 10 o'clock on the dial. I think on the Magni it sits around the same, but I don't think the Magni volume is linear. It might be exponential, because like lower volumes are low, and then like it's not that much louder when you get up to, I don't know. I do have a tube amp. I forgot I have a tube amp. Let me fire that up. Now, because it's a low sensitivity, it's probably going to sound different on different amplifiers, because I don't understand. But it kind of does. Like on the Fulla, it sounds good, like really good. Well, it sounds like how they are. Like the reason my opinion on the sound here is based on what they sound like through the Fulla. But on the Magni, they sound a little bit more. They sound a little bit bigger. Now, I do have my Bravo tube amp, which is warming up right now. I do want to hear what it sounds like on tubes, because tubes. Now, this better not deafen me, because I almost destroyed my ears setting this up. All right, after 30 seconds of listening to the Force Awakens soundtrack, I can tell you, yeah, it sounds good on tubes. It doesn't sound that much different from a solid state amp, to be honest. But you do get the soundstage increase, and some of the like bitiness goes away, because that's what tubes do. Unless you get a weird tube, in which it'll make things brighter. But you're getting a tube amp because you want warm and soundstage. So it does sound good on tubes, and this Bravo amp is absolutely overkill. I spent $30 on that Bravo amp. If you find a Bravo audio tube amp, and it's like, I don't remember what it's called, it's just like Bravo audio tube amp, get it's $30. It drives my vintage K240s, which are 600 ohms, and have a sensitivity of like 0, all right, 90, but like no sensitivity, and the 600 ohms, and it runs them like they're nothing. It is such a powerful amplifier, and it sounds good. I don't understand. $30. Like that sat at 9 o'clock, and it was too loud for these things. Yeah, they do need a little bit of power, but not as much as you would think. What was the next thing here? Conclusion. You want 990s, but you don't want to spend $150. Buy these. Or just buy them, because why not? They're $42, and I'm not stopping you. So, don't expect much more after this video, because this was just something I threw together just to get something out, because I wanted to do that. Bye.